Hey YouTube, welcome to my Heir of Fire reading vlog. So, little intro. We are going on our Throne of Glass journey. I am taking you guys through my journey along with me. I have never read this series. I am a lifelong romantasy and fantasy reader. This is just one of the series that was not on my radar when I was younger, not on my radar when it came out. And I have decided to read all of this and Crescent City in preparation for the next ACOTAR books that are coming out this year. I do have reading vlogs for all of ACOTAR because I just read that this year as well. And yeah, so this is going to be the reading vlog for Heir of Fire. I am super excited. I'm really nervous. I did the reading order where I read Assassin's Blade third, and I just finished that last night, and it literally like ripped my heart out of my chest. All of those vlogs will be up on my channel by the time this one is, so if you feel like going back and watching them in order, feel free. Also, definitely give me a like and hit that subscribe button if you are interested in bookish content. I post every Monday, and I post short form most days. Long form every Monday, short form almost every day. But yeah, I'm really nervous going into this. This is like I'm gonna call this the fourth book in the series. I know that technically Assassin's Blade is like a prequel, but the way I read it, this would be book 4. So, fourth book in the series. I'm really fucking nervous. Like I said, the Assassin's Blade literally like ripped my heart out of my chest. I was so upset. So, we're gonna see how I feel about Heir of Fire. I don't know. I'm hoping that we're gonna get a small break from the emotional devastation, and like maybe the emotional devastation will pick up later in the series. That's kind of what I'm hoping for, but we will see. But I'm really excited to be on this journey. I've been having so much fun making these vlogs, and I'm really excited to get into this book and start telling you guys my thoughts. So this was my setup for when I started the book. I had some pastries from my favorite bakery. I got some onigiri from my favorite poke spot. And then later I moved to a different spot because the garden was super crowded this day. There was like a lot of people there, and I find it hard to read with background noise. Also, here are all the baby squirrels. They're like so small, they can fit in the palm of your hand. I love them. They are my friends. I am obsessed with them. I think they're so cute. Also, found this little like hawk feather. Rowan, is that you? All right, I'm in the car. Ignore the shit behind me. It needs to go to a storage unit, but I have just finished the first probably like 60 pages of Heir of Fire, and I wanted to give a little update. I will say I was at the garden for almost 2 hours, and normally in a 2 hour block, I would be able to read significantly more than 60 pages. But unfortunately, they were setting up for an event, and it was just like so busy and so loud, and there were so many people, and it was like so fucking hot today that I was just kind of like struggling to focus. But yeah, with all of that happening, I was just struggling to focus a little bit. But I like where we're at so far. Okay, I don't know. My phone keeps cutting me off, and I keep getting really frustrated. But I am just gonna try to talk really fast. So I am we are finally meeting some of the Fae. We are currently in Wendlin, which I think is super interesting. I am interested to see like more of the Fae lore, which I mean I know we know the Fae lore from ACOTAR, but I'm excited to see how this connects. And I'm excited to see like more of Selena going back to being Aelin and like her powers and everything. I'm really interested in Queen Maeve. I am so stoked that we met Rowan, and actually I realized by my reading spot there was a feather that I'm pretty sure was a hawk feather, which is kind of crazy. Like little coincidence, little synchronicity there, but I'm really excited that we've met Rowan. I am super stoked about that. So, yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. Hopefully, I can have like a better focused reading time later today, and maybe we'll be able to get some reading in this weekend just because today's reading time was a little chaotic. Hey YouTube, I'm here with a proper Heir of Fire reading update. So I am homesick today. I have not been feeling the best. I'm pretty sure I'm coming down with a cold, but I have used today to get through a massive chunk of this book. I think I have around 150 pages left to go. So I thought this would be a good time to sit down and update you guys on some of my thoughts. I have been taking notes for this book because a lot of the reading time I've had has been like at night. I'm ending up having another really busy month after last month was so crazy. So really the only reading time I've had has been like before bed, and then when it's like 11 o'clock at night, I don't feel like getting out my tripod and like setting up my little filming area. So yeah, this might be a bit of a shorter reading vlog compared to the others, but let's get into the update. So we've met Rowan in this book, we've met Manon. I have so much to say. One of the first things I wrote down was the creature being described in chapter 14 in the Barrows. At first, I wrote down, I was like, is that Bryaxis? Is that what the creature is supposed to be? But now that I've read more and it's like these creatures that have been created by the King of Adarlan, I'm like, maybe not. But Bryaxis feeds on fear, and Bryaxis is like one of the only things that Cassian in particular from ACOTAR is like afraid of. So there's part of me that like made that possibly false connection, because now that I've read further, I don't think that that's the case. And then I was like, is it the bone carver? But the bone carver is just one guy, and there's like multiple guys in this, like the evil creatures. So I think maybe that was just me trying to make a connection that wasn't there. But I will say on page 271, there is what I am almost positive is a direct reference to ACOTAR. The quote says, Selena was standing at the sink, back throbbing and hunger gnawing at her belly as she scrubbed the last of the copper pots, while Emrys finished narrating the story of a clever wolf and a magical firebird. Is that not ACOTAR? Is the wolf not the fae that's killed by Selena, or is the wolf Tamlin? And the firebird, I'm forgetting her name, but she's the lady who's like chained to the sorcerer who like turns her into a bird at night. Do we remember that? Because I remember that. I've been trying to kind of read these books through the lens of both appreciating them as their own story, but then also connecting them to the other books in the Mossverse, especially since the reason I chose to read them now is to have that context and backstory in preparation for ACOTAR 6. So I did just kind of write that down. I don't know if that's like actually relevant, but yeah. I did want to talk about Rowan because I feel like I've had a lot of conflicting feelings about him. I feel like I had read a lot of people and seen a lot of people saying that he's like the best MMC ever, and for some reason, I don't know why, I thought he was just going to be like a really sweet, perfect, caring guy, and he's definitely not. He's definitely a more complex character. There's a point where he first meets, where after him and Selena have met and they're like training and stuff, and he tells her that the world would have been better off and maybe she would have been more useful if she had died 10 years ago with her family. And that pissed me off so bad. I was like, I'm actually gonna fucking punch you, Rowan. What the fuck? But now that I've gotten to the point in the story where he has like seen Selena's scars, she like burnt out as she was using her magic on Beltane, and he has been like caring for her, and his story of how he had a mate, Lyria, and she died, like, died while she was pregnant, which, like, makes it even worse. Um, all of that, I feel like it does make him a really complex character. I will say, spoilers for the future Throne of Glass books, if you happen to be going on this reading journey with me, you might want to skip the next couple of minutes, but I do know the spoiler that Rowan and Aelin do end up together. I saw that through some fan art, which was really beautiful. It was really cool fan art. But I did see that spoiler, so I do know that they end up together. I don't know if they're going to be like mates or if it's just going to be like a naturally forming relationship, you know? I'm not really sure what that dynamic is, but I do know that they end up together. I do know that. What else did I want to talk about? I feel like so much has happened. I really need to talk about Manon and Abraxos because that, like, I've seen the fan art of Abraxos. I've seen people talk about how they love Manon and how they love him and they love them together. They love the 13. And it's been so interesting reading that part of the story because from Selena's perspective, the Iron Teeth witches are evil and the Crochan witches were good. And you're reading through this and it's like, yes, the Iron Teeth witches are vicious, but we don't know the full story. We don't know the full picture yet. And I think that that's really, really interesting. The mountain and the wyverns and the witches working to have them be their mounts and like train with them. That's absolutely insane. Also, I will say I knew about Abraxos and okay, I don't know how to say this. I knew about Abraxos and his spider silk wing, and I knew that because of his injuries, as soon as the bait beast was mentioned with Titus, I was like, that's going to be Abraxos. And that whole scene where Iskra pushes Manon into the like wyvern pit where the wyverns are like fighting against the bait wyverns and are being selected as the mounts. That whole scene, I was literally like in my bed just like sobbing. Abraxos and Manon, like their bond that they have. I feel like if you've ever rescued an animal, like especially an animal who has been like abused or has been through a really traumatic situation, like you know that bond. And I feel like I had a bond like that with my childhood dog growing up. She had been to multiple shelters. She had like had a litter of puppies she was separated from. She was at like the fourth shelter she'd ever been to, and she was like on the kill list, and she had been abused. And I feel like when an animal connects with a human in that way and is so strong and forms this like beautiful bond with a human, I was just fucking sobbing that whole time. Like Abraxos taking down Titus, standing up for Manon, protecting Manon. I just thought all of that was so beautiful. Them flying together, them finally making a crossing. The whole theme of the witches being, it's 3 words. It's like obedience, something and something. It's like obedience, something, brutality maybe. And how Manon's grandma is like, we don't have hearts, but you see these little glimpses of like Manon's goodness through her relationship with Abraxos and through her relationship with the 13, her fellow witches. All of that has made me like so emotional to read about. I thought it was so, so beautiful and has truly been one of my favorite parts of this story. I feel like there is more that I wanted to say about that. I'll have to look back through my notes. But speaking of the beautiful parts of the story, one thing off the top of my head that I also really wanted to talk about was Aedion, and how when you meet him, you're like, wow, what a fucking piece of shit. Like, you know, betraying Terrasen and betraying like his own people, and then you find out that he is actually like working against the king, and he has hoped that Aelin was still alive, and like in a way I get concerned about him and like his part of the storyline, because to me I'm like, that is book BF, book husband material. Like, he's a big buff sexy general, and like is so loyal to Aelin, and like the loyalty and the way he speaks and feels about her, and like putting her back on the throne, that being his like one and only goal, is so so powerful. And parts of that kind of made me cry too, like discovering that Aedion is actually like a really good person and is working behind the scenes in his own way, so that when Aelin does come back, he can be there by her side and like help her reclaim her throne and everything. Like, that has also made me like so emotional. And then there's also a part of me that like, in the first two books, I was like, I love Nehemia. Why does nobody ever talk about Nehemia? And then she fucking died. And then with Chaol, I knew a lot of people really hate Chaol. So I was like, what's going to happen with him? And then I'm kind of having the same feeling with Aedion, where I'm like, people don't talk about him. People don't talk about Aedion. So, like, is he just gonna die? Like, is he just like a plot device to get Aelin to a certain place, and then he's gonna sacrifice himself and die? Or like, is he going to have like a betrayal moment? Like, I'm just really, really curious to see where that is going to go, because I love Aedion. I'm like, I love and adore him, and like, what's gonna happen? Like, I feel like I am in a way waiting for that other shoe to drop with him, where I'm like, is he gonna do something bad? Is he just gonna be unalived? Like, what is that? Got to take a little pause to read over some of my notes, because I know there were a lot of specific quotes. I've been annotating the shit out of these books. Like, my color coded tab system, I've tried to kind of keep the same coding system. Normally I like to match my tabs to like the covers and like dust jackets of books, but throughout this, I have tried to kind of keep the same color system that I used for Throne of Glass, so that I can go through all the books, and then if I do a reread at some point as future books in the Mossverse come out, I'll be able to like really easily connect the dots between my annotations. And I know I've marked down a lot of like specific quotes and stuff that I wanted to discuss. So I'm gonna hit pause, read over some of my notes, and then I'll be right back talking about more of my thoughts. So, kind of piggybacking off of some of the stuff I've already talked about, when Rowan bites Aelin to make her shift, I was like literally giggling and kicking my feet. And then, like, fucking 2 pages later or whatever, he says the shit about like she should have died. And I feel like I have emotional whiplash from Rowan. I also had written down several notes about like Aedion looking real fuckable right about now, because like I love him. Like, I'm concerned about where his story is going to go, because I like him so much. But I specifically wrote down chapter 24 with regards to Aedion. And he says on page 197, he says, she doesn't have to do a damn thing to earn our loyalty. And then on page 199, it says, the oath of pure submission, the oath that would have sealed Aedion as her lifelong protector, the one person in whom she could have absolute trust. Everything he possessed, everything he was, should have belonged to her. Oh my gosh. And then the paragraph after that, yet the prize was not just a blood oath, but a kingdom, a shot at vengeance and rebuilding their world. Aedion made to walk away, but looked back. Just two cloaked figures, one hunched, the other tall and armed. The first shred of Aelin's court. The court he'd raised for her to shatter Adarlan's chains. He could keep playing the game for a little longer. I'm obsessed. I'm genuinely obsessed with this man, and it's going to be so good. And then later on, Aelin talking about how she is scared that he's going to hate her, him talking about being scared that she's going to hate him if they meet. Like, I feel like there's so much foreshadowing of their meeting, and I feel like there also is a lot of foreshadowing of the fact that he might die in service to her. There's also this passage where Kale is talking about how Aelin Selena is so formidable, and she has this like aura and this air of power and this way of drawing people to her, and how Aedion has that too, and like how them together could be so dangerous. There's also, I feel like this book has also given me a lot of like conflicting feelings, conflicting feelings about Dorian and Kale. I have really liked Kale up until this point. I feel like he genuinely is just trying his best. He kind of threw away his whole life and his family in order to serve the king and Dorian, to do what he had thought was right way back when. And now, kind of, all of this is being uprooted around him. And he says at one point, he's thinking that. Sorry, I saw there's some police activity happening outside my window, but he saw that. Fuck. What? Okay, Kale. Oh yeah, so Kale is loyal to Dorian. Kale is loyal to Dorian, and at one point, Aedion is like, "What are you fighting for? Like, what are you fighting for? If you're not fighting for Aelin and Terrasen, whose side are you on?" And I think that's a question that is going to have to be answered, if not in this book, in the next, because is Kale going to stand by the king as he's like committing all these atrocities and like raising evil, or is Kale going to stand by Dorian no matter what? Is Kale going to turn around and fight for Aelin because she is Selena, the girl that he has like really loved? Him still saying he would happily like lay down his life for Dorian. I don't know. I feel like I can't hate him. I don't hate him. And I don't even know if I dislike him, but I definitely am starting to distrust him. I will say Dorian also was kind of pissing me off at the beginning of this book. Like, him referring to Aelin like as his enemy, and him not necessarily supporting Kale in his like journey through all of this. I get that he has magic, and I get that it's a struggle. I get that he's like feeling isolated. The magic makes him further isolated. I understand it's not cut and dry. I understand it's not like an easy thing, but it definitely is a lot to think about. I also thinking about Sorsha, how Dorian is with Sorsha now. Sorsha is also one of those characters that I don't see people talking about. I feel like based on her backstory and what we know about her so far, I don't necessarily think I see her turning evil unless it's like against her will. But I do kind of wonder why she is like not somebody that gets talked about. I also do know, I don't really know if this is like a spoiler or just like a fan headcanon, but possible spoiler for books down the line in this series. I know that Dorian and Manon, there's like a possible romantic connection there. Again, don't know if that's just like fan theories or if that is like an actual canon plot point in the upcoming books, but I am really interested to see how the stuff with Sorsha plays out, because, like, I know about the possibility of Dorian and Manon, so it will be really interesting to see what happens with that. Alright, a couple more things. I have a theory that Abraxos can sense Manon's power. I wrote that down like when we first met him, and then with Petra kind of saying to Manon like that the wyverns can speak, and like implying that hers speaks to her. I'm really interested to see how that like comes about and how that plays out. I think that's going to be really interesting. I also did write down like Kale and Adion's relationship, how like I feel like if this were a different series with different priorities, I would be shipping Kale and Adion, which it is this series, that's not the priority, but I did just have that like fleeting thought when I was reading about that. Which like I don't know, it's kind of a sleigh. It could be kind of a sleigh. Who knows? I keep pulling out my notes and then remembering what I want to say, and then I feel like the like exhaustion and sick brain keeps taking over once I actually turn the camera back on to film, and then I forget what I'm fucking thinking about. But yeah, I will say just some general thoughts. Overall, I'm really enjoying this book. I'm really excited to read this like last 150-ish pages and to see where we end up. Let me take a pause real quick because I need to look at the reading order of the series and discuss something real fast. All right, never mind. What I was going to say is not relevant yet, but the next book is Queen of Shadows, and then there's Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. I have been really conflicted with Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn if I'm going to do the tandem read or not. I am not an audiobook girly. It's probably my most unpopular bookish opinion. I'm not an audiobook girly. I think audiobooks often sound really cheesy. They're just like not for me. I do think they count as reading, but it's just not for me personally. I also don't own like a tablet or Kindle because I know there are people who have made like PDFs of the tandem read that you can like download. I know also there are bookbinders out there who will do binds of the tandem read, like they'll integrate the chapters to be bound as the tandem read of both of those books. And unfortunately, I think that's just out of my budget right now. And also, I would have to find somebody who had it like pre-made in order to get the bind when I wanted to read it. So I don't know. I had been thinking I wasn't going to do the tandem read, but then I got a bookish tattoo about a month ago, and the tattoo artist was like, no, you need to do the tandem read. Like, it will be so much better if you do the tandem read. So I am just kind of thinking about that as I get closer to that book, because I have. Fuck, how did I already forget what order the books are in? Okay, it's Queen of Shadows. I have the rest of this. I have the entirety of Queen of Shadows to read, but then it's Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn, and I don't exactly know what I'm going to do there yet. And then Kingdom of Ash obviously is the last book, and it stands on its own. I don't know. I feel like at this point in the series, I am heavily invested. I am really enjoying it. However, it's not God tier yet for me, which I know is a super unpopular opinion. I am wondering if maybe just what I like to read, because ACOTAR became a God tier series for me. And I'm wondering if maybe just my personal tastes and interests are closer to ACOTAR than to this. That being said, I see why it is a god tier series for so many people, and it has been making me like so emotional. I've cried so many times throughout the entire series. I think it's so good, and I feel like my opinion on the series being god tier could be changed as I continue to go along, because I feel like this is one of those series where each book has gotten better and better and better. Like, I rated Throne of Glass 4 stars. I rated Crown of Midnight 4.5. I rated The Assassin's Blade 5 stars. And this so far is shaping up to be like a solid 5 star read. So yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at with all of it. If you have read this, let me know if it's God tier for you, because I feel like all of the opinions I see about this series and these books are very. Also, my arm's moving because I'm trying to pet my cat. One of my cats is down there, and I'm trying to pet my Louie. But yeah, I'm interested to see if anybody has different opinions, because when I posted my Throne of Glass video about how I was struggling to get into it at first, I did see the first person I had ever seen say, like, yeah, I DNF'd the series because it felt slow and I just wasn't that into it. And like, I've never seen anybody say that. I see everybody just be like, I love this, it's the greatest thing ever. So I'm definitely curious to know people's different opinions. But yeah, that's going to be it for this update. I think most likely my next update will come when I finish this book. So I will see you in my next update. And thank you for watching and following me on this journey so far. Okay, I lied. This wasn't actually the end of this update, because there's a quote on page 325 that I am so curious about. And it says, "A merchant came by a few years ago. He told me there was a mortal high king who had set himself up there. But I heard a whisper on the wind recently that said he'd been deposed by a young woman with wine red hair who now calls herself their high queen." Is that Amarantha? Or am I just fucking going insane? And am I just like in this little rabbit hole of insanity because I read Akatar first and now I'm like, Akatar? Like, is that gonna be Amarantha, or is that just a completely fucking different character and I am just going insane? I don't know, but I'm excited to find out. So yeah, that is now actually the end of this update, and I will see you guys in my next one. So I actually was not going to film another update today, but I just finished Heir of Fire and I am like fucking raging. I have so many thoughts. I Oh my god, I don't even know where to fucking start. I don't even know where to fucking start with this update. It really felt like that last, like, 100, especially those last, like, 75, 50 to 75 pages, were, they could have been an entire book themselves, with how much happened, how much information was packed in there, how many puzzle pieces came together. Oh my god, I genuinely don't know where to fucking start. I Looking at my notes, where I had left off was Rowan discovering Selena's scars and like being horrified when he realized what Selena has been through and what has happened to her. Also, I realized I set my camera up, my phone, the other way, so I'm trying to look at the lens, which would be here, but I put it the opposite way. Let me flip it around so I'm actually looking at the camera and not like staring off into space. So we will talk about some small moments and then we'll move into the big moments. One of the small moments I did want to talk about was Selena burns out on Beltane. She uses too much of her magic. She crashes out. And Rowan takes care of her. He like makes sure she's okay. He sees her scars, realizes what's happened to her, and that's kind of a major turning point in their relationship, in their friendship. And then there's a line where they're talking about, it's part of the to whatever end, but they're talking about like when they die they'll both go to hell together. And that's actually a direct callback to Assassin's Blade, because it's something that Sam says to Selena, like, even if we go to hell, like, as long as I'm with you, it'll be worth it. That's not the exact quote. I would have to look back through my notes to find the exact quote, but there's like a direct correlation there between what Rowan says to Aelin and what Sam had said to her as Selena. I feel like, oh my god. Okay, we'll talk about the battle real quick. The battle is crazy. The fact that she's able to harness her power, use it against these Valg princes. I had also, the Valg were mentioned in the earlier novels, just like offhand. Um, so now getting to see them, super fascinating. I am still stuck on, because it's Bryaxis, the Bone Carver, and the Weaver, who are the siblings in ACOTAR, who are these, like, crazy ass, like, creatures. And I cannot help but wonder if they are Valg, if that is, like, where they came from. I mean, I totally could be wrong, but I just am thinking about these connections because the feeding off the fear and the like embodiment of your worst memories and worst fears, to me that sounds like Bryaxis. It sounds like the Bone Carver. It That just does make a lot of sense to me. Um Again, does that theory have any merit? I don't know, but it does to me as of right now. So I don't know. There's that. The I really want to paint the scene with like Selena after they've like cut her hair and she's like using her power. I feel like that is just like, that was so cool and it was so like beautiful. And then her like fighting to protect these people, and like she's been living in survival mode. I feel like especially as an assassin, like she was in survival mode and she was just trying to live, and seeing her like embrace her birthright, embrace her power, embrace that side of herself, I felt like was really, really beautiful, and that was something I really appreciated. Oh my god, there's so much to say. I was right about Aedion. I was right that something was going to happen to him. The king has said he's going to kill him. Obviously, at the end, everybody gets captured. They all get found out. It's Chaol, Sorsha, Dorian, and Aedion are all found out by the king. The king sets up this trap. Aedion confesses to being a traitor so that Chaol can kind of get away with his part of everything. And then the king beheads Sorsha, and Dorian unleashes his magic. So I was right about Aedion. I don't know if the king is going to kill him. I don't know if he is going to try to collar him the same way he did Dorian and force him to do his bidding. That whole shit made me so sad because all Aedion wants is to like see Aelin one last time. And I really do hope that even if he does die, I hope they give him like a dignified ending. I would really hope that he would get to see Aelin. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen. With Sorsha, I was kind of getting the same vibe. I don't know if I talked about it in my previous update, but I was kind of getting the same vibe of like, she's a major character in this book. Why do we never hear about her? Well, that would be why, because she gets beheaded at the end of this book, so she's only a living character for one book. Chaol takes a stand at the end. He says he is standing with Dorian. He will stand against the king. Dorian lets himself get captured by his father in order to save Chaol. All of that is all of that made me so emotional. Chaol and Dorian's friendship is like so beautiful. The bond that they have is clearly so strong, and like them saying like I love you, and Dorian using his power to allow Chaol to get away, that like I'm like gonna cry just talking about it. This also brings me back to when I was filming the Assassin's Blade video, and I was like, hey, so this was devastating. Does it get worse than this? And then somehow it did. And like, oh my god, I wasn't fucking ready for that. I wasn't ready for it to get worse. I kind of thought that, like, I mean, I guess because Assassin's Blade is a prequel, it would make sense that. Because for me, I was like, I thought I would get a little bit of reprieve after reading Assassin's Blade, but we really just don't. It's just straight into like the chaos and unalivings, all the chaos, all the death, like insane. All right, I had to put my hair up. It's getting too hot. I am flustered. My dinner is cooking in the other room. It's like hot as shit. I'm dying. But oh my god, the whole ending. Selena going to Doranel, her putting all the pieces together, standing up to Maeve. I knew that the ring and the sword, all of that were going to be important. I had marked all of that down, but honestly, I kind of thought that none of those dots were going to connect until the later books. I really did not expect so many of those pieces to fall into place so early on in the series. I was definitely expecting that information to be relevant in book like 6 or 7, maybe. I really was not expecting all of that to come together the way it did. I thought that her bargaining to break Rowan's blood oath was amazing. And then Rowan just turning right around and being like, yeah, I'm actually going to swear my fealty, take a blood oath to you. That was absolutely crazy. The scene after all of that, where they're like in the glen, they're by the waterfall, and Aelin tells Rowan her entire story, that was like beautiful and emotional and like sad, and just everything in these books, everything in this book is so layered, and there's so much to all of it. There's so much like anger and pain and anguish, and the theme of like her not letting her light go out, and it's all so emotional and it's all so heavy. And I think this is kind of a little bit off track, but just comparing ACOTAR to this, I think this is a bit more, we are saving the world and we're saving these downtrodden people. And while there's an element of that to ACOTAR, I think ACOTAR also has a different interpersonal journey within each of the characters. Like how Nesta's journey, yes, it's relevant to the wider world, but it is so her internal journey. And we're seeing Aelin's internal journey, and we're seeing her have all this character growth, but it's this growth in relation to, she is going to become a queen and she is going to free this entire land, basically. It's a very different vibe, but I feel like now being finished with book 4, this series are both so impactful, in my opinion, in their own ways. I will say the emotional significance of the ending of this book, as soon as they're in the chambers, the council chambers with the king, and it's like the King of Adarlan smiled, I like had that pit in my stomach. I felt sick. I knew bad shit was gonna happen. I knew I was gonna be pissed. I knew I was gonna be angry. And I think that really is part of the power of this series, the visceral emotional reaction that it inspires, and the way that it puts you in these scenarios with these characters, and you really do feel like you're alongside them. Because I felt really similarly about ACOTAR, where you feel like you're part of the family, you feel like you're part of the Night Court, and I feel like that's a lot of how I feel with this as well. I will also say, I don't know if this is an oversight on my part or if this is like an actual theory or something that's relevant, but I've noticed that, as far as I'm aware, the King of Adarlan doesn't have a name. He's just referred to as the King of Adarlan. And I'm wondering if that is going to be relevant or significant somehow. If he somehow secretly is going to be somebody else that we wouldn't have thought of, or somebody who's supposed to be like long dead, and it's him somehow. Not necessarily in like a body snatching type of way, but I don't know. I'm just wondering if it is going to be relevant that we have not, as far as I can recall, we have not learned his name. Again, maybe that's not relevant. I could just be making that assumption for no reason, but I have a feeling that it's going to be relevant. I'm not really sure. But yeah, going back to the ending, Aedion being captured is like so fucking upsetting. I'm really, really hoping that if he does die, that it's at least like with some dignity, and that maybe he can see Aelin one last time, because I just am so fucking sad. Sorsha dying was really sad. I feel like her and Dorian's storyline was kind of, I think it was the shortest out of all of the storylines. Like, we see the least amount of time, we spend the least amount of time with them as characters, so I wasn't as emotionally attached to her, but it still feels super fucked up that she died and that the king did to her what he did. Dorian unleashing his magic, I feel like, was really, it was the right thing to do in the moment, but then also, like, now that he's in a collar and the king can, like, bend him to his will, I feel like that is going to be really, really fucked up, and there's a lot that can be said there. Oh my god. And then at the end, too, like, Selena going back to the continent. She's going back to Erilea on her own because there's no magic there, so Rowan would be either, he would stick out too much as a fae, or he would be trapped as a bird, which, like, neither of those is ideal. But it does also kind of remind me of Sam wanting to go hunt down Farron alone, like the fact that she's going back there by herself. I know she obviously has a ton of allies now. She's going as Selena to face Arobin, which I'm really looking forward to. I fucking hate Arobin, and as soon as it was revealed that he likely has the necklace, which is the third word key, I was like losing my shit because I already fucking hated him so much. And the hatred is just like so much stronger considering I just finished Assassin's Blade and then went right into this. Like, oh my god, this book was, where did that accent come from? This book was so good. This book was so good. I feel like this was probably the turning point for me of, 6-star read, possibly God tier read, because the way the pieces connected and fell into place, I thought was just so genius and so incredibly done. There are a bunch of quotes that I wanted to talk about. I just can't even pick it up. There are a bunch of quotes that I wanted to talk about throughout the book. I am going to try to keep this short and sweet just because this, again, has already been longer clips than I thought it was going to be, because so much happened at the end that I'm like, I have so many more thoughts than I expected to. But I did want to talk about the last page of the book in particular. But she didn't want to know, didn't want to think about the sun goddess and her agenda as she flung herself on Rowan, breathing in his scent, memorizing the feel of him. The first member of her court, the court that would change the world, the court that would rebuild it together. She lifted her face to the stars. She was Aelin Ashriver Galathinius, heir of two mighty bloodlines, protector of a once glorious people, and queen of Terrasen. She was Aelin Ashriver Galathinius, and she would not be afraid. I've heard she was Aelin Ashriver Galathinius, and she would not be afraid. There were so many quotes in this book too, like the to whatever end. I know that's going to be a theme throughout the series. So many quotes that are iconic to Throne of Glass that obviously this being my first time reading it, I had no idea where they came from and what they would mean. And now getting to read them and understanding their significance is so cool. Also, I did spit a little while I was reading that quote, and I really hope that you couldn't see it, but yeah. I'm very passionate about this. I am fired the fuck up. Oh my god. I can see that I'm like turning pink because I am kind of yelling because I'm upset. But this book was so good, and the way that everything tied together, the way that everything played out was so captivating and so fascinating. There are so many scenes from this book that I want to paint, like Aelin with her power, Aelin after she got her tattoo and she's like done the mourning rites for like her family and Marion and her people, like, oh my god, all of that. And then I haven't even talked about Manon and the witches and the fucking wyverns yet. Oh my god. I love Manon and Abraxos. We get to the ending where they are having the, what are they called? The games? But they have a name. What are they? Am I dumb? How did I forget this? Okay, so it's the war games. They are fighting so that one of them can be crowned wing leader and to kind of decide their positions going forward. And then Petra, the heir to the Blue Bloods, is falling after Iskra like attacks her. They're fighting. Iskra's wyvern grabs Keely, Petra's wyvern, and they start to fall. And Abraxos and Manon have this moment where they're like, we can't let them both die. So they go, they dive, they save Petra, and Keely unfortunately does fall to her death. She passes away, the wyvern. And Petra, having said earlier that the wyverns can communicate, and us very clearly seeing that as an audience with Abraxos and Keely sacrificing herself to save Petra, to save her rider, that like really fucked me up. I was literally crying again. It's like every time we're with Manon and Abraxos, I'm crying, but it was really, really beautiful. And then also going back into like the witch's values, it's obedience. Fuck, I keep forgetting it when I actually come on camera, but I know what it is. Obedience, brutality, and discipline. Obedience, brutality, and discipline. That's what it is. And the Crochan witch saying to Manon that like she feels bad that is how the witches have made her and have made each other, make their children like so dark and heartless and soulless, as Manon literally says, like, she doesn't have a heart, she doesn't have a soul because she doesn't need one. Like, this whole book fucked me up. And really, like, I asked about Assassin's Blade. I was like, does it get worse than this? And then I read this and I'm like, does it get worse than this? Like, am I gonna make it? Am I gonna make it through this fucking series? Like, oh my god, it's breaking my heart. It's literally breaking my heart. I am so upset about Dorian. I'm so upset about Aedion. I am upset about Sorsha. I'm sad for everybody. I'm stressed out that Rowan's gonna still be stuck in Wendlin and Aelin's gonna be on the continent by herself, pretending to be Selena still. Like, oh my lord. I don't even know. I don't even know what the fuck to say right now. I'm out of words. I gotta check my notes and see if there's anything I missed, but I really do have to wrap up this video soon because this final update is already like 20 minutes long, and I know that this is gonna end up being an hour-long vlog if I can't like bring it down a notch and like cut myself off. So we're gonna look at our notes. I'm going to see if there's anything else that I have to say. But I feel like I literally could sit here and talk for an hour minimum about just that last like 150 pages, because it was just like plot twist after plot twist, and like things are fucking happening. The King of Adarlan using his magic on Selena when she was a kid is one of the things that really fucked me up. That he like could sense how powerful she was and like used his evil magic on a literal child. That is like so disgusting and evil. We already knew he was disgusting and evil, but like it's worse. And then going through Selena's memories and seeing the full extent of her actual experience, seeing Lady Marion's sacrifice for her, just, and her kind of being like, she wasn't willing to face that before, but like, she was a child and she was raised by an assassin who took her in and took advantage of her. And the way that she grew up, like, girl is fucking traumatized. Like, no wonder she wasn't chomping at the bit to fucking fully remember all this shit. Like, I feel like part of her strength of character is that she's really hard on herself, and that's part of what is turning her into the character she is today and turning her into this queen who is ready to rule, is ready to sacrifice for her people. But at the same time, like, she deserves a break. Give a bitch a break, genuinely. Give a bitch a break. I am going to check my notes one more time just to see if there's anything else that I missed, but we should be wrapping up this video pretty soon. And then I have to decide if I am going to try, if I'm going to take the rest of the night off reading and just chill, or if I want to immediately dive into the 5th book. Alright, I think I covered everything that I wanted to talk about. I literally wrote, like, oh my god, this is definitely the first God tier book of the series for me, and I do think that it is, because the way everything came together at the end was so amazing, it was so emotional, it was so impactful, and I really, really cannot wait to see where the story goes in the next couple of books. So that is going to be it for my Heir of Fire vlog. Thank you guys so much for watching. Just a little reminder, I am doing vlogs, reading vlogs for all of the books in this series. So by the time you're watching this, there is a vlog up for Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight. There is a separate vlog for The Assassin's Blade, and then this will be vlog number 3, and then there will be 3 or 4 more depending on whether I decide to do the tandem read for Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. So be on the lookout for those videos. Definitely like and subscribe. Leave me a comment if you enjoyed. Definitely tell me your thoughts on Heir of Fire specifically, because oh my god, it does make me feel a little bit better that I know that this is such a popular series and so many people have like gone through this emotional journey. Yeah, dude, I sense more fan art brewing. I've actually, I don't know, you can sort of see them. That stack of papers right there is a stack of like 10 to 12 different watercolors that I've done based off the series so far. So I definitely think I'm going to be painting more. I definitely think I'm going to be doing some oil paintings based off the series as well. So maybe that will get its own video when I am done with the series. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you guys again for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that I will see you back on my channel for my next one. Bye!